I want to reiterate the fact that this is not a debate about the theology.
Then we should move on because then I'll start asking multiple
So guys, let's just stick on the topic. Moving on to the next agenda. If you just give me a moment. We did speak previously, right, on emotional expression and mental health, correct? I just want to, obviously, since that ties onto the whole trauma and toxic behavior, this might be controversial as well. Is the toxic behavior of men actually justified because of the psychological impact of what they have to go through in society? Is it justified, that men treat, as other people would say, that men actually oppress? Not that I agree with that fully. I do have my points where I deviate with that. But as some people would say that men oppress non-heterosexual people within society, is their behavior justified in a sense? Because if we're looking at men, it's often associated with this toxic figure and the entire thing of is their behavior justified because of their traumas and what they've had to go through within society? We start here. She said no. She was very quick to say no.
Yeah.
So
it's explained in the fact that you are oppressed, but it's not justified. Just because you went through something awful and terrible doesn't mean you get to perpetuate the violence that was perpetuated against you onto others.
Yeah. And I also think with that being said, it's just a matter of, I always define it as you're scared of what you are. It's like, let's take homophobia in an instance. Homophobia is being perpetuated by people who are homosexuals themselves.
Okay.
It might be that you're out, it might be that you're in. Because if I am a straight man comfortable in my masculinity, I would not feel some type of way if I see a gay man or two gay men kissing. That has got nothing to do with me.
Okay.
But it's just a matter of, I can live what you live, so I'm going to make your life as difficult as I am living currently.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of it's trauma, valid, and I don't want to invalidate anyone else's feelings. But however, it's being perpetuated by homosexual people.
I'm sorry, but with regards to your point, are you saying that, say, people who generally criticize homosexuality, are you saying that it isn't based on trauma?
Not really.
Yeah.
It could be based on trauma. It could be based on malice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because someone can also debate on the toxic mainness
Why
of
are you
society.
pointing at me, though?
No, I'm not pointing at you, Harry. No.
I'm kidding.
No, because I think as people, we tend to carry the burdens of our parents into.
And that's where we go.
Yeah, into the present. Because at times, and I'm sorry for saying this, but at times you find that a mother and a father's relationship, something happened, and then now the mother perpetuates this narrative to the child that because your father did this, when the child grows, they tend to now have this rebellious how can I put this, bro? This rebellious behavior towards men, a man who's confident in being a man.
Yeah.
Because now we tend to, and I'm not saying it's not everyone does it. Also, I'm also gonna advocate for those who are not doing it, and for those who are doing it. We tend to now call it generational curses. But it takes you as an individual. Hence, I'm saying it goes back to ignorance. Yeah. It goes to you also as an individual. It doesn't mean that if every family puts a broom behind the door, that also you need to do it. You can remove it and put it somewhere else.
I get what you say.
Yeah.
I get what you say. But like as you were saying that women tend to do this thing of perpetuating their ideas.
Also men.
Wait, we are talking. I'm gonna go both sides.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go both sides. You understand? Whereby they're perpetuating the ideas of men or their past men to their sons or young sons.
Yeah.
Don't you think that's one of the main idea is that now this new generation of men, us, are struggling to truly identify or truly know the bounds of masculinity. It's because of we are also raised by women who, who are pointing out these bad things about masculinity in terms of saying a man shouldn't do this, a man shouldn't do this, a man shouldn't do this. Whereby when you, as a young man, go out there into the world, you find out the world is actually revolving in like more of like in another way of saying, if now my mom say a man shouldn't do this and then I don't do this, actually doesn't protect me as a man, but rather leaves me vulnerable. So wouldn't you say like that also leads to young men not being able to truly be or truly identify or truly know the bounds of what is masculinity and what is not masculinity because of what women have perpetuated in their minds as to saying this is this, this is not this?
I think. Can I say?
Yeah.
Okay. I think with that as well, it goes back to saying, with what parents think and their mentality where they are at currently, it's because of lack of education. Back in 50 years ago, when my mother was in grade, let's say, for example, grade 5, 10, whatever grade she was in, whatever, if it was called grades at that time, it's not the same as it is now. You've got the knowledge. You take up that with your mother. Challenge these conversations. The conversations we're having here should be conversations we have in families. And obviously, it starts.
We are black.
I was about to go
it goes back.
I was about to go back to
Black
the
points
to the point where I was about to raise a point on whether are actually African families actually developed to that point whereby I wouldn't even call it development. Have they reached that point whereby they are comfortable to actually discuss matters of sexuality, gender?
Because they see it as a taboo. It's a taboo
because it's a taboo.
Okay, you can go.
I want to say, to answer your point, right? I have raised my little brother, right? And I'm not a man, I know that. And he's going to be a man. He's not going to be a gay man because we've had that conversation.
Before we go further, sorry to disturb you. Based on how you raised your little brother, what would you refer to as a man?
Okay, that's what I'm getting to.
Okay, thank you so much.
He's an advocate for people who who can't advocate for themselves. Because I've taught him that as a person, you were a person before you're a man or a woman. You need to understand that as a person, you are here to protect those who cannot protect themselves, but you need to be able to protect you before you can protect anyone else. That was the number one value I taught him. But number two, I taught him kindness. I taught him how to be soft, but also taught him that you can't be vulnerable in front of everyone. It's those types of soft skills that I think every child should be taught, regardless of man or woman. And then you discover your personhood through the things you and your friends enjoy. I feel like that's what like masculinity should be defined to. It's in your friend group with the men that you identify with. What are the things you enjoy? And that's how you cultivate a culture of manhood that's not centered around the things you do, but rather the people you connect with. And then conversations around black families. I have had many conversations with my families around multiple things because I often have to lead those conversations. We talk about GBV because I point it out. They know my stance because I say I don't agree with what you say. My grandmother is very homophobic. And I will tell her all the time I don't agree with what you say. But there's always respect to it. I think black parents are approachable when you approach them understanding that they are parents before they're anything else. So even if you lead these conversations, lead them from a place of respect rather than ignoring the fact that they hold their beliefs for a certain reason.
Okay. So I have two questions. Sorry, I'll come back to you. So 2 questions. You're saying your brother, you're raising him in a manner that allows him to be soft but not vulnerable at the same time. I just want to ask, like, where do you draw the line? Because most people in like our society, in modern society, would kind of like conflate the two, saying that being soft and being vulnerable. Exactly. And then with regards to your grandmother, what do you say about African parents who actually talk or refer to the very same conversation? Like, not even, forget about your approach, the very like nature of the conversation on homosexuality or anything else, should not be touched in those families. How then does a person actually approach those conversations?
Okay, to your first point, vulnerability and softness, like people view being soft as weak, right? But The reason I separate them.
It's okay, it's unfiltered, Chief. You can even answer it. I'm kidding.
The reason why I've taught him how to separate them is because.
need to be kept.
Sorry.
The reason why I've taught him to separate it is because men in the society we live in,
Yeah.
if you are too vulnerable, it will always be used against you.
Yeah.
Even with women.
Yeah.
So, quick question.
Yeah.
Who uses that vulnerability more, men or women or
Thank you.
Who abuses it or uses it?
Abuses it.
Okay. Women abuse vulnerability all the time. In the friendships I have with women, they've always misused my vulnerability. That is why I taught him that it doesn't matter who you're vulnerable with matters. It's not just about learning how to be vulnerable to be a complete human being, but learning where to express these behaviors. That's important. That's what I do. Yes, you have to cultivate a safe space where you feel vulnerable to have these conversations.
Okay.
That's what's important. And with all the family members, and it's about allowing them to see these things and have their opinions to say them. Because the conversation of gayness came up because my grandmother was watching a show about Innocent, that show on Mojalak, she was watching it and she spoke about how they're demonic, and I was like, no, let's not go there.
And how did the conversation go though? Would you say as an old person, a person who was actually manufactured by her times, he actually understood where you were trying to go with the conversation?
She does not understand, but I've had the conversation, and other people in our family who were watching the conversation have changed their attitude.
And I want to go to our other panel members here. What would you guys say? I know, was it Fawaz who said that, we're still actually learning, we're still actually developing as people to actually accept these ideals. Between Fawaz and Sia, how do you then navigate when it comes to those waters whereby you are dealing with old people or people of a certain generation, a product of their times, as they would call them? How do you then navigate actually explaining to them these new concepts?
Personally, this is just an experience of mine.
Okay.
Having to come out to my parents was a very difficult thing.
Yeah.
Mainly because my mom is a pastor, right?
So that must have been tough, huh?
PK child? I understand your pain.
Rats. So having to understand that, okay, I came out to my parents. My dad took it well because my dad is religious, but very much not in religion like that, knee deep in religion, right? I don't know how to describe it, but
liberal.
Very much
very interesting,
surface.
because next is the conversation of actually sexuality or gender and also religion. But you can actually go in and it will flow well.
But then, my dad is very much surface, he goes to church, reads the Bible, knows the Bible values and stuff, but wouldn't use that against someone else. But now my mom stands in front of a crowd, preaches that to people. Homosexuality is a sin. Having that conversation with my mom was way difficult because now I had to bear the consequences that this is what also she said with her mouth, that she's scared of being perceived as a hypocrite because you preach the other, but then you're harboring the other. So that was a very difficult situation to navigate through because now I'm with me being gay, it only does not affect me and you, but it also your status in public. We more that's what parents care most about.
About the
social
status.
Yes. How do I look with a gay sign in public?
Yeah.
And that was back in that was in 2016.
Yeah.
Now we're in 2024, and my mom can still come to terms with the fact that I'll wear crop top.
Yeah.
And
and your father's fine with that?
My dad doesn't
He doesn't mind.
He passed on, but anyways.
Okay, maybe so.
No problem. But then before he did, it was just a matter of he just didn't care much. You wear crop top, it just doesn't bother him. But with my mom, it's even till to this day, when I wear crop top, she would not say anything.
Yeah, but
But I can tell And the other time, this is insane, but then the other time I put on makeup, for the first time, because my mom has never seen me in makeup. And I sent her a picture, I was so scared, trembling, and I was there you go. And then she was to me, she's oh, I thought you were gay, but now
What's up with the makeup?
What's up with the makeup? Are you trans? And I'm like, you see, now there is a lack of information and lack of education because me putting on makeup doesn't mean I'm trans. I had to sit her down like, listen, trans people is people who feel like they're born in the wrong body and they don't resonate with what biologically they're assigned to.
And so they did.
Right. Me being gay is just sexual attraction. Like, I'm attracted to men and that's just about it. It's just my freedom of expression.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then obviously, as I did mention, that this conversation, and I'm glad you mentioned religion and everything.
Yeah.
That's tied to religion and beliefs. But also, wouldn't you say that your mom is doing it? Are you religious?
Just
okay, let me not
I'll
put
get
you
back to
on
that.
the spot. Yeah, let me not put you on the spot.
Mm.
But then, wouldn't you say that in her mind, she's doing it out of a place of love? Because with religious people, it's either you do this or it's hell.
You know?
So wouldn't you say perhaps your mom? Wouldn't you say we're living in like one of the times where because of information, like the overload of information and how much like information we get and how intelligent we are as human beings and how we're advancing, we just don't understand each other. And also because of this information that we're getting, you know, because your mom is probably thinking, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that, okay, that's my son. First of all, obviously my public image matters as well, because I preach this, you know, I'm trying to save people. I'm trying to do this. And save being the key word. Don't you think she's trying to save you?
With her, obviously she has her own values to think, because obviously she's experienced the religion in a different way. The Bible says homosexuality is a sin. She lives based on that. That's where her values are based.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she had to be a parent to understand, regardless of what I'm reading or whatever I am feeling or whatever I am worshipping, it's just a matter of having a conversation, sitting down, trying to understand, and just showing love after, like above everything else. And that has also been a thing, like with you asking if I'm religious. I feel like I'm very religious. I'm very Christian. To a certain degree.
To a certain degree.
I feel like, because I've been to church, but I've been like segregated from the church.
Very sad.
Cool.
Yo, that's very sad, man. That's very sad. Okay, quick question. Keep it brief,
So,
Laza.
With your whole familial situation, it's also extensive for us. Do you not believe that it's a symptom of cultural shock? So when I talk about cultural shock, is that some people are not as adapt to change as quickly as possible as to others. So would you not say it's a symptom of cultural shock?
Yeah.
I don't think so, personally, because
Is it ignorance?
it is definitely, or just like not. I'd like to put it in a different way, but ignorance, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
But I'd like to think it's just mainly because of them sticking to what they know. That's gospel. That's amen.
Not wanting to adapt.
But also it goes back to the fact that what...
Take your time.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
really finding it.
To answer the question, I found a document from, it's from All Saints Church. It says, being gay is not a sin. It says sins are acts that separate us from God and keep us from loving our neighbors as ourselves. Being gay is not a sin. Bullying is a sin. Being hateful to other people is a sin. Putting yourself in the place of God to judge others is a sin.
But as a Christian man, I'm not a fundamentalist. I want to state that I'm not a fundamentalist. I do not by any means push my beliefs on other people, but I do actually identify with the man who follows Jesus Christ. And at the same time, with what they're saying, and obviously, as I said, we don't want to debate the Bible and stuff like that, or the Quran, or any other religious book, but Sia mentioned on cultures that this is something that our parents grew up with. This is something that our parents understand. And obviously, me as a Christian man, as I said, looking at my Bible, what I've noticed is that obviously, I think they'd mention it, that the Bible does actually call out homosexuality as a sin. You know, because they do mention, I think it was Paul, if I'm not mistaken, not going too much into details.
Yeah.
I think it was Paul who mentioned who will not enter the kingdom of heaven and who will enter the kingdom of heaven. And obviously, knowing Paul, he was a respected disciple of Jesus Christ, right? He's the guy, after all, who, I don't know what happened. Did he get beheaded or something?
He got blinded.
Did he get stoned? I don't know.
No, he got
Or did he
blinded.
get blinded?
He got blinded by God, and then
Yeah.
he saw Jesus.
And then how did he die?
And then, how did?
I think he got beheaded.
Never. Okay. Also. Never. Also. Never. Also. Also. Nah.
Yeah.
Nah. Nah. But also.
He died. The one who got it was another disciple.
No. But also.
Fair, guys. Obviously, I just want. I'm just. It's not a debate, but I'm just rebutting on what they're saying because it's not in line, obviously, with scripture, and we don't want to dwell in scripture because we'll never end.
Yeah.
And I leave you.
No, but also, bruh. No, Laza, wait. Also, we're in the one debate that culture evolves. I mean, a person who lived 1,000 years before us
And that's
is not living.
That's the point.
Is not
Sylvia
living.
was trying to make.
You get what I'm saying?
Can I just go back to what I was trying to say? So you said culture shock, right? And it goes back to the fact that 20 years ago there were still gay people, right?
Yeah.
It's just a matter of like I don't want to accept this or lack of information. It could be different reasons. However, going back to what you said with Christianity, it could be in the Holy Bible. However, it also says in the Holy Bible that whoever without sin cast the first stone.
Yeah.
So I believe no one in this planet is fit enough to say we should not. We are just condemned like we evil spirits and we demons.
Nobody can say that. Nobody
So
can
I
say
feel
that.
like with that, people read their Bibles upside down. Personally,
The point on the Bible. Let's move on, guys.
Yeah,
Before
okay.
we move on, I really want to get the Muslim
Is it about the
perspective.
Bible?
Yes.
No, it's not about the Bible.
Yeah.
It's about the Bible.
Okay.
Most of the panel was towards a Christian
Yeah.
theology.
No, don't.
Yeah.
We want to go to the Muslim
Yeah.
perspective because for us as our panel to at least bring balance because we're looking at the Christian perspective. I really want to know the Muslim perspective. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get a person that was against this point. But at least for us, can at least run us through that whole passage because we need that to run through this.
Yes,
So
well.
please, for us, you have the stage.
Yeah, guys. My religion is same but different to Christianity, and I love my religion because not just because I was raised to be a Muslim, but I fell in love with the religion because of what the Quran says, and however I don't. So it's compulsory to go to mosque on a Friday or men and whatnot. And I just thought to myself, I sat in this one lecture in the mosque on a Friday, and as a gay person or person who's queer, how are you actually going to tell me to my face, gay people is going to hell, gay people is going to burn in hell forever and whatnot? I stood up and I walked out, and I probably...
Out of the mosque.
Yes, and I only ever went
Brave.
with my dad on Eids. And I don't go because I felt disrespected as a person.
So was that the last time you went to a mosque?
No, it wasn't last time. I do go occasionally because it's certain mosques that are problematic. Just like certain pastors are problematic.
Christianity, 'cause, just like you
Yeah.
read something
Yeah.
with.
Someone is gonna like disagree. Yeah.
So I think that a lot of personal opinions come across in lectures like that, and so I think that I don't think I was wrong in walking out.
You were
because
definitely
I was disrespected, but there's no blurred line within in my religion. So you go into hell. Like there isn't a thing that says like, oh, you're not gonna go to hell, or you know, it's no blurred lines, black and white. You are going to hell. That's why I don't know if you remember last year, but I had this long curly hair, I had earrings, piercings, and whatnot. And I had, before Ramadan last year, I had this like religious shift. I shaved my hair, took out all my piercings, and I just practiced the religion. And I was like, why can't I just have my relationship with God and not care about the fact that I'm going to hell?
Yes.
And I think that works for me because
and
I don't think
into your identity as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't think that. Well, I think that works for me, and I don't like openly express the fact that I don't agree with what the Quran says because I'd be condemned for it. But, I think that is just something that I've internalized and something that I had to make peace with. But I do think about other religions a lot, and not that Christianity or any other religion is easier than another. But I always think about like, would it be easier if I did belong to a different
What a
religion?
valuable point.
And I also think like, would my parents take it better if I was in a different, if we belong to a different religion? And I also try my best in my capacity as their son to educate them on matters queer related and
how do they take that out of interest?
Not well. My dad, honestly, he's only starting to come by now. My mom's always been supportive. And my two sisters are supportive as well. So I feel comfortable.
So you feel comfortable.
But it took me a long time to get there. And the reason why, I'm detailing now, but the reason why I do leadership is because I found that in high school, because that was the thing that kept me sane. Because I couldn't be myself in my household. I had to hide my makeup. I had to hide my cropped tops. I couldn't wear nails. I couldn't express myself fully.
Must have been tough.
And it was so tough. And then I just took up all of these roles to try and fill a void, stay at school longer because I'm more comfortable there. And so coming to university, living on res where I'm able to express myself fully, it was such a revelation for me because I was like, is this my potential? You know? And ever since then, I think that I've thrived. And I kind of constantly have these conversations with my parents to kind of make life for my sisters better, you know, so they don't have to experience the same things that I did. And evidently, it is better. And I do see my parents dying, but it's still not on par with like
and I also
where
wanted
I'm
to
at.
touch up on your leadership roles. Just a moment. I also wanted to touch up on your leadership roles. In a sense, do you feel like this is some superhero role whereby you have to actually fulfill, in a sense, to actually help out or like save some people who once felt like you, you know, before you came to rest and actually felt all the freedom?
So that's a great question, and so I'm the chairperson of Queer Us. It's the Queer Society of Stellenbosch, and we advocate for inclusivity on our campus, and we try to create safe spaces on our campus, which we have a lack of. But I can say that we tried really, really hard, and we got a lot of positive feedback from people, from queer people, who says that these things does work, and having conversations with other queer people does work, and it makes them feel part of a community, something that they don't necessarily have at home. We get a lot of people who's from
Okay, thank you so much. We have one question.
Let him wrap up. Let him wrap up.
Okay.
So
I also want to ask.
Yeah, I want to.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I wanted to say. After Fawaz has actually wrapped up.
Yeah.
Charles, very briefly, and then we can come to.
yeah, I was
Hassan.
gonna say.
Sorry.
Lazar tlo betha wena.
Labetan.
Oh, di mana man.
Let him speak.
Okay, away.
Sorry.
You take your time.
Just to add on, quite before you just, I think with what he said, I really resonate with it because it's now not a matter of doing it for. Okay, it could be for you and for others as well.
Yeah.
But I really think it's a matter of representation. Being there shows other people that you also can do it. You know, like people who look like you and believe in what you do, they can really see like it's really that much possible. But sometimes I feel like I took on these positions just to prove to myself that regardless of what the world says and like condemns like homosexuality, we're not worth it. We're not. I think I use that as solace to say I do belong. I do really, really resonate. Like it's just a matter of like also fulfilling some void, as you said, like a void of abundance, a void of neglect. You just like fill that through friends and such other things as well. Empowerment basically.
Charles.
In terms of like providing safe spaces for the minority, being understood, I don't think straight men or heterosexual men actually get what a safe space for a heterosexual person is. So like, if you can elaborate, can you just like educate us on what that is and how we as heterosexual people can do better in making you guys feel comfortable and making you guys feel safe?
So, so it's queer safe space, yeah? So it's this program whereby every week we get, it's almost like an annual conversation where we just talk about problems that we face as queer individuals. And a lot of the times it's regarding the sexuality and how we get looks from people in this town, where a town full of students, which is actually so crazy to me because like you think that we're all educated enough to
know about these
things. But they aren't. There's a lack of education, and I think that a lot goes back to a lack of education. And so we try to educate people through those safe spaces and events. But 90% of the time, straight people whose allies don't show up because I don't know why they don't show up, but yeah. And then, safe spaces. I think that men should also have those spaces and discuss the issues that are being perpetuated by your community as men. I represented our university at a conference at CPUT. It was the Wellbeing Conference, and they started this thing called the Men's Machita program. And so it's a space where men come together and they discuss these issues or the intersectionality of these issues regarding everything that you guys face as straight men.
So what I'm getting from what you're saying is, in terms of like safe spaces or whatever, you're talking about a space where someone can like express themselves
freely
without being judged, without being looked at in a certain way.
And I also
and then have you like paid account to have you like considered that other people come from, let's say, rural areas whereby they've been taught that in society we only have two certain like genders or sexual orientations. We have a man, we have a woman. They've been taught and they've been like raised in that way, so they're not open-minded in that way. So what has your committee or society done to like educate people from like rural areas or people who have no education around those certain topics? What have you?
So we actually have a booklet called Ally for All. There's a lot of information regarding that topic, but also when we do speak, we do invite everybody into our spaces. And so I think that firstly, you have to be willing to learn, because it doesn't help I'm preaching and you're not listening to anything that I'm saying. So willingness definitely plays a huge part in that. And I think that we've taken affirmative action in contributing positively to society, trying to change.
Yeah.
But I think that this kind of relates back to our conversation earlier where we said that society is changing, but it's not changing at the rate we'd like
it to change, yeah.
So I'm honestly not sure why people aren't willing to learn, because honestly, people have nothing to lose, and yeah.
And that's what you are touching on as well, the fact that society isn't changing at the rate that we want.
Yeah.
That's how you want it to change,
Yeah.
right? But at the same time, it's just not going to be that way. I feel like it's going to progress. Enough with the questions at the back. This is what the show is.
Okay, Laza, that's your last. Laza, that's your last.
No.
Can I just, we have Asa.
Okay, Asa.
Yeah, and then Laza can like share his last question.
Yeah, and then
I really want to ask this question. I don't know whether
Take in mind that we're running out
it's
of
gonna.
time.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but like I really don't know whether or not it's gonna come off as too personal or not. So if it is, then be free to say. Like my question is, you pointed out that like your mother treated you well more than your father, and then from what I gathered from what you just said is you were the firstborn, and you are the male firstborn.
Yes, that's why there's a problem.
So I'm trying to go into that. So wouldn't you say like your father also? I don't want to use. No, let me not even say that word. Like, wouldn't you say that your father had, greater expectations and how he wanted to live life with his firstborn son, and then when you, identified as a queer person, that kind of had his emotions also, as to now he has no son who he had, all these plans that he wanted to do this and wanted to do this, and when now you are this, you don't want to do those things because you don't identify as a straight man. So wouldn't you say, it also him not being able to truly understand it comes from a source of pain?
I think that as a father, you always have certain expectations.
Yeah.
And like there's the stigma around like firstborn sons being gay, like not being able to carry family legacy, name and whatnot. And that sent me into a downward spiral in high school.
Okay.
Hence why I took up those leadership roles, because I was depressed, I was doing self-harm, and all of those things to get rid of the pain that he now inflicted on me, because why am I not deserving of your love as a father?
Yeah.
How can you tell me, yesterday you told me, I'm so proud of you, and then today I tell you, I'm not straight, I'm queer, and then you don't have to be the same. Like, does that make sense? Like, I'm still the same person, it's just that I'm not living the life that you idealize me to live.
Yeah, I mean, like, it answers the question up to a certain point.
Yeah.
Because, like, my point of view is, I understand what you say, and I understand that you also needed your father's love at that point.
Yeah.
Whereby it was like, you identified as a queer person, and you wanted to know that your father supports you, even so. But my point of view is this: it's like you also don't really understand your father's pain as much as your father doesn't understand yours. In a sense of, now your father also had as much as great expectations, but also had these moments that were painted in his mind that he was going to share with his only son, and his only firstborn son at that point. And now, like, all those, like, painted, things that he would have wanted or would have loved to share with you, it's like now, most of them, they're not going to come true.
Yeah.
And so, like, now, from a perspective of a man who a straight man, I would say that would also send me to, to a certain kind of spiral, whereby it's like, now, where should I go now?
What's going on?
What's going to go on now? You understand?
Can I throw a wild card though?
Yeah.
I mean, him being queer doesn't mean the father can't get what he was expecting though. If the father was expecting a football player, he's still can play football. He still has the masculine genes in him.
No.
What if the father was
You get what I'm saying?
I'm not saying he cannot be a football player.
Yeah.
I'm just saying we shouldn't really look at it from a father's perspective because, as Tabang said, sometimes our parents do things from a place of love. It's just that we don't fully realize it at that point. You understand? So as much as it pains him, maybe it came from the point of love of now my son is going to go through this, going to go through this. You understand? So you, as you say, wanted a football player. Even if Fawaz's father could push Fawaz to become a football player, Fawaz would be ridiculed in the field every time he goes to.
Yeah.
So which is like that goes out of the picture. You understand? So I'm just saying maybe it also stems from pain that he is
Protection.
in this manner. And of course, because he is a man.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And
That's a
of course,
good point.
because
Because
he's a man.
don't you think that perhaps it's from him trying to protect you?
And of course, I'm just saying, of course, he's a man. So I'm not saying, I'm just saying that men, the generation before us, and even so this generation too, some men are still not well equipped to handle their emotions. Because from what I understand, men certainly, we typically have three emotions that we can definitely feel. It's like anger, which sometimes it's pain, but like it comes as a source of anger. It comes as anger, and then it's it's just like now it's happiness, and then from there it's like you don't like it, so you can't really identify the emotion, but like it's like you don't like it, so you don't really know the emotions that you're going through. So I'm just saying maybe it was from a source of pain that he projected as anger.
And I also feel like with that, because every queer story coming out, whatever family dynamic there is, I think there is a sense, and obviously speaking from experience as well, there is a sense of no communication at all. It's the the family's expectations, and it's the person in question, like the queer person in question, expectations. You expect your parents to love you, but they don't know how to do it for you. But they also expect you, obviously they had this ideal image of who you were going to be, but also the lack of communication in that to say, let's sit down, you had this. I can still do all of those things, regardless. Maybe in your defense is that you're trying to protect me. Obviously, because of you've been seeing queer people being orchestrated from the community, whatever. That's your form of protection, trying to not, hold. But like also, that's what I'm saying. Like communication was like the first barrier that got broken.
I feel like Sonata is dying to say something here.
I actually was not dying to say anything.
Not bad.
But I do have to think that every relationship, whether like straight, gay, whatever, there's always the barrier of communication between parents and children.
Yeah.
It's not just, that's just one of the things that stop parents, but it's not the major one. There's like, people don't know how to love someone the way they want to be loved unless there's communication had. So parents don't know how, like, parents are not going to ask a child, how should I love you as my child? Because they think they know best, not realizing this is an entirely different human being outside of me. So they place these expectations and these dreams, but like, this is their own person, whether they be gay, straight, whatever. They're not you.
Yeah, I'm sorry for playing it.
Yeah.
I love
you
that.
can play.
It's also a thing of, you understand, we tend to have this superficial point of view when it gets to parents. You understand? So what I'm trying to say is, even so, if like, you understand, we must first, okay, so let me just start it down. We must first understand that our parents, the first thing that they're trying to do is they're trying to protect us from the world, as at the same time they're trying to expose us to the world in a manner of like, say gradually, so that we can be able to protect ourselves when we are out there in the world.
Yeah.
So as to say that sometimes you can say that your parents don't love you, whereby they are doing their best so that you don't go through the things that they went through. As much as times are progressing, but like we must keep the fact that like our parents are not as progressive as we are. in a sense
They're a product of their time.
Exactly, in a sense of, as much as you say you hate your parents and all this, you must know that like they also went through whatever they went through, which they are trying to make sure that you don't go through those things. But like when you out there, you might not go through the things that they protected you from going through, because of those things are things of the past, which they do not know themselves.
And what are the possibilities of you doing the same thing in the future to your own children? Very high.
You understand?
Because at the end of the day, I feel like with instincts and just being a parent is that you just want to protect your child, So we have 7 minutes left, but obviously before we close off, I'll just leave off everyone to just make their concluding remarks and say whatever it is that they want to say.
Laza has been holding his question, bruh. He's been.
Because this thing, I want to ask multiple people.
Yeah, but that's
Asa, I'm going to ask you this question. So, Asa, with the predicament of a masculine frame and everything, right? With the way for us as well.
Wait, can you, yeah?
With the masculine frame and everything, right? Do you not think the masculine frame is outdated? Because for us, asking from his father a sense of love, a sense of compassion towards his situation.
Yeah.
And that even though this is the situation that I am and this is who I am, and you must accept that you must adapt that even in a sports sense, even in a sexuality sense, that I am your son and at least I deserve at minimum your love and respect to be the person that I am. Do you not think that has to come from an adaptation? And then hold that thought for us, for your society, right? When it comes to the aspect of rural people, now I want you to understand, so for us, 60% of South Africa is from rural parts.
Yeah.
You know this. You've had to deal with rural people that come into Stellenbosch for the first time and they see this world from just time. You can't deal with a person that's like me, who has dealt within a co-ed space. For most of my life, I've been in a co-ed space, all the way from preschool all the way to grade 12. I was in a co-ed space. I understand the dynamics. I understand the dynamics of these sexualities. I understand the definitions. I understand this. I have that education. So that's why I can engage into you with a more informal and more personal engagement in these topics. But for a person who's only known rural things, it's far more harder because they haven't gotten used to the language, they haven't gotten used to the concepts, they even haven't gotten used to the idea that these possibilities are possible. The things where you can identify yourself as non-binary doesn't exist to them. It is literally an alien concept. Even though you put a booklet, that is not, in my opinion, enough to educate them. And you know this, when it comes to education, there's a reason why it takes years to educate a child to be substantial into their knowledge, into becoming an adult. That's why it's a grade 12 system. It's literally 12 years of education. So literally, how is that a booklet going to encapsulate that kind of education for someone who comes from a rural sense where 18 years of their life, they didn't even know that all of these things persisted? And that's what I want you to go away with, that type of question. And then also with Sia, in a religious sense, I understand where you're coming from, but the thing is, with religion, it's more of a subscription. And then when I mean with the subscription, it's either you conform or you don't conform. And it's fine if you don't conform, but the thing of religion is a very different type of concept because it's a doctrine. And when it comes to a doctrine perspective, how do you find yourself being able to maneuver? And those are the questions that I perceive to all of you.
Okay, so starting with Asa.
Yeah, can you paraphrase whatever Laza was saying?
Yeah, because he said a speech, bro.
That was a mouthful.
I think he obviously mentioned like you going like with the traditional sense of love to like your child, and how does that actually benefit them, and how does that actually help them, and like is you showing the traditional sense of like fatherhood to your child, actually showing your child the love that you think is showing them? And in a sense, I'll answer this briefly, and you can also contribute.
Okay.
But you did mention that it also ties back to like the social perspective, that in a sense, you're trying to protect your child from the society at large. It ties in back to your father being a product of his time, So he might think that, okay, I'm protecting my child from actually being ridiculed, while the child might say that, no, but my father doesn't love me for who I am. While who you are can actually harm you socially, amongst your peers, amongst other people as well. I don't know if you're getting where I'm going with this point, but I think you did answer the question that he actually asked.
Laza, what was your question again?
No, okay. I think Laza.
Your love not adapt to the person that you're dealing with,
I think
because the times are different, so you can't use the sense of love.
No, I think Laza, with time comes growth.
Yes.
With growth, comes change.
I win a philosopher.
You get what I'm saying?
Aristotle.
You get what I'm saying? We need to, as people, bruh, when you're in a space and you leave that space without learning, you're ignorant or you're stupid. One of the two. If you come in a new environment, a new environment that you're not used to, and you don't come out with a lesson from it, it's either you're ignorant or you're stupid, bruh.
What if the rules of that environment are stupid?
Then you have to see.
So they adapt to the stupidity.
Clearly, my point is.
You know what? This is a very interesting topic we can talk about in another
Wait,
episode.
can I just
Can you
make...
just share your final thoughts?
Yeah.
Okay, let Asa finish. Let Asa
Just share your
finish.
final thoughts and then we wrap
Yeah.
up.
So like in regards to like father and then like progressing in all of that, I feel like at times we're putting too much pressure on our parents. To be honest with you guys, I feel like I understand that like you want love from your parents, you want them to know the current trends that are happening. At the same time, it's like you want them to be able to provide whatever your needs are at the same time, and you want them to be able to provide your wants at the same time. And at the same time, they are dealing with each other. And then at the same time, they are dealing with problems that are very personal that you might not be exposed to.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying we should also, when we are, approaching our parents, think about such things that they themselves, they might be going through.
And while you're at it, you can just close off and then we'll just go this way.
Okay.
I think you can close off.
Just
Your thoughts about the topic. And then
rate us out of 10.
Okay, out of 10, I'm gonna do that. No, for real though, I feel like personally, this was a very much, growing space in terms of I got to understand the things that queer people also go through that like I myself was not exposed to, and then perspective of a feminine perspective towards us as a heterosexual man. I understand. So like this was very helpful to me in terms of how I should now go about to approach certain spaces and all of that. And thank you, Senati, for for your perspective into the minds of a female, and how I would want to say majority, but like how a female sometimes feel about us as men. Yes. And thank you guys for sharing your queer perspectives, and overall, give it 10.
Thank you so much. And then I'll very briefly.
This is great. Lovely. Thanks. Bye.
That was very brief.
Macau.
Okay, me. Okay, what I've learned today is we, as people from different cultures, different religions, different walks of life, we need to love one another. That's what I've learned today. We need to love one another, tolerate one another. Even tolerance, bro. We can. Tolerance is something else. We need to accept one another instead of saying tolerating one another. We need to accept one another. Because tolerance is like you are annoying me, but I'm tolerating you. So we need to accept one another as people.
So accept one another.
So that's what I learned today.
Love, tolerance, and acceptance. Thank you so much, man.
And also with me, I'd like to say the greatest gift you can give to someone is love, based on what he said. And I think to all my queer people out there, happy Pride Month.
For the sake of time, I'm not going to answer your question. But yeah, this topic of conversation is really engaging. It was lovely to be a panelist among all of you, educated people. And I hope that this sparks conversation in your circles of life, and so we can continue to educate people. And with that, goodbye.
Don't the host, I must close. I have a day. Brother, stripping me off of my responsibilities. But it's a very quick game. Yes or no, agree or disagree. I'm going
Don't
to
substitute.
move.
We don't substantiate, right?
No, you don't have to substantiate
Obviously,
because
so
we're
we don't
running out
need
of
to.
time. So here are some potential scenarios for the game. Real men don't cry, yes or no? For
Hmm?
us, real men don't cry. Yes or
Roman,
no?
don't cry.
Yes or no?
What's no?
No is no and yes is yes.
Real men don't cry.
Do you agree or do you disagree?
No.
No.
Okay.
No.
No.
Yes. I'm kidding.
I
No.
know.
Don't cry.
Yeah.
Why are you confused?
I don't know, like the question.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be
Yeah, I
tough.
know, that's
Come
right.
on, it doesn't have to make sense. You'll substantiate it when someone asks you on the streets what you meant. Because he told
It depends on what you're trying.
Okay, he's a sophisticated man.
Okay.
Moving on. Men should show vulnerability in relationships. Yes or no?
Yes.
Chief, do you want to be vulnerable in front of your girlfriend?
We like that.
You like it?
That's
We
not
like
the
it.
person you're attracted
No.
to.
I mean,
No.
we like it.
No.
At times.
Chief.
Nah.
Calling out another guy for not being manly enough. Should men be called out when they're not being manly
Exactly,
enough?
they should.
I'm just saying. They shouldn't be called out. Chief.
Can I raise a question?
I'm already asking a yes or no question.
Check.
Yeah.
Do you think men in this generation
Yeah, but that's another conversation.
are up to par with what we call a man?
But that's another conversation.
No.
Come on.
Yeah,
That's another
a
conversation.
different conversation.
Yeah, calling out another.
We need to have.
Yeah, we need to have another podcast for that.
Yeah.
So calling out another man, another guy for not being manly enough. Cowards, what are you saying? Should they be called out? If you're not manly enough, if you can't pick up that 20 kg weight, should you be called out?
You cannot make that scenario alone.
Yeah,
You also should,
it's
make
very
a
broad,
scenario
bro.
Of saying,
But it's a game. That's the point of a game.
Whatever, and see how it works.
Okay,
And all of that.
But based on your standards of whatever masculinity it is, do you feel that you need to be called out when you're being masculine?
I'd say no.
Okay,
I'd say no.
It's a yes or no.
It's very broad.
I should be called out.
No.
Call that nigga out, man.
Okay. Number 4, men should always be the breadwinners in the household.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I said you should
dropping
figure out something.
Yeah.
You should have something figured out.
I'm in trouble. South Africa.
Second last question. Encourage young boys to toughen up when they express emotions.
No, I think we should tell them that emotions are okay.
Okay.
No. Express yourself.
I go with expressing yourself.
No.
Don't cry though.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say.
No,
No,
don't do that.
exactly. Express yourself in a rational manner, not in an emotional.
Yeah, be a man. As they would
That's
say.
where masculinity and femininity.
No, but if I was, look at this. If you're busy trying, how am I gonna know how
Exactly. You feel first, and then you deal with your problems, or deal with your problems and feel. You don't have to do it together.
You can go cry in a corner and come back.
That's what I'm saying.
Space.
That's what I'm
You can
saying.
cry
When
and
you express your emotions to another
The
Okay,
lack-
guys, last question.
The
Sorry.
lack of vulnerability often leads to GBV.
And the
Yeah,
society.
anger. Yeah,
Exactly.
anger
So
and
allowing
resentment.
yourself to feel.
Yeah.
Could eradicate most of
So
the
you are
problems
allowed
our
to
country
feel. It's
faces.
just a
I'm
matter
not
of where
saying,
you feel.
we're not saying you're
And that's
not
what
allowed
the
to feel.
Silence. Certain sports.
We're not saying
Lazar.
you're not allowed to
Silence.
Yeah, I need to be back here.
Silence,
guys, order,
silence is a
order.
manifestation of resentment.
This guy's a philosopher.
We didn't say you shouldn't feel. I didn't say you shouldn't feel.
Okay, guys, last question. Last,
But know how to rationally express
Fair enough.
emotions.
Okay,
last
fair.
question. Last question.
I understand.
Expecting men to always initiate romantic interest. Should the man always be the one who initiates a romantic interest?
I am a femme bottom, so yes.
Femme bottom.
So,
I resonate with that.
So you're also a femme bottom.
Fem bottom.
Now where are the
And I'm
tops?
single.
I said the top. I'm kidding. Were you a top or bottom?
Why did you shout that?
I'll say Yes, bruh. Men need to, yes.
Or initiate.
Yeah. Ish, but dog.
But
Ish, but also, bruh.
Yeah, it comes with
Yes or no?
Yes or no?
Yo, well, that's okay. The problem is that I'm dealing with philosophers.
No.
Okay.
You guys are too
Well,
educated.
no.
Yes.
No.
Asa, that's a salam.
When we talk
Yes or no?
Yes
What I'm saying is this. When you look at it, women always drop, the handkerchief, and then men pick it up, and then think that they were the ones that are actually pursued.
Okay,
Whereby it's like
Yes or no? Okay.
the signs will drop.
Yes or no?
Yes or no?
Yes or no?
It's a simple question.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hey, bro.
Hey, the tax.
People have been watching. Dog, it's so crazy, bro. We look at the stats, bro. We have at the moment 317 views from the first episode, but the subscribers are so low. Laza, what are you doing of him? so please don't forget to subscribe and like the video instead of viewing, bro. People view, but they don't subscribe.
And I hope you guys follow us on our socials.
Thank you so much. Do you guys want to listen to results?
They'll be in the description.
Okay, and then also I'll also tag the panelists on the video so you find their socials. So don't forget like